Thank you all for coming to the presentation, emergency preparation. This is Jeff Carroll, Fire Chief, Julie Anderson, Emergency Manager.
Yes.
Did everybody sign a slip of paper, put it in the basket? This is for the drawings we're gonna do afterwards, and you must be present to win after the presentation. So if you didn't get a slip, let me know and I will get you one. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jeff and Julie, and then Shannon's here from Salvation Army. She's gonna talk a little bit too about what they do in the event of disaster and after Jeff and Julie talk, so. With that, take it away. I might step out a while, but.
Why don't you go?
I can just, I'll start, and then Jeff, yes. Come on in whenever you're ready, but, first of all, I really want you to know that we appreciate you being here, and Jeff and I do a lot of presentations, around our county, and this one is meant to be general preparation for emergencies, and it really is meant for you living here. So it's going to be a little bit specific. Jeff is going to talk a little bit about what happens if there were a fire here, and specifically what the plan is for residents in this building, okay? So we're not going to talk real globally. We're going to worry about ourselves and how we all in this room need to be prepared for anything. And you know, we could talk for hours, and I will mention on how instrumental the Salvation Army was in our May 2022 tornadoes, but I've put out a couple of things. So part of my job is to educate, part of my job is to write plans, and to be available for all of you to either help as volunteers and share this information, or again, to call me. So always feel free. My number is on the flyer. I've handed out some preparedness bags, and we are going to talk, and Fran's going to help us demonstrate and share a little bit what she has in her go bag and in her stay kit. But at the end of the day, no matter what is happening, really, you're either going to stay here or you're going to have to go. Okay? It's really that simple. It's frightening, it's concerning, it's right, Jeff? I mean, if there's a fire or there's a very, very severe storm and windows break, there's no question we're all going to be very nervous. But the more we can be prepared and have our minds think about, well, where would we go? Your body can go where your mind has already gone, okay? So if you think it through, it's not as hard as if you haven't had a chance to rehearse in your mind. Does that make sense? So preparedness kits, that's one of the very first things. No matter what the emergency is, if we had a truck carrying some hazardous chemicals that had a crash and we asked you to shelter in place, that would mean stay inside. And you all have your own individual air conditioners, right? No? Okay, or if you have them. So it would be turn your air off, shelter in place, don't open your windows because you don't want any of that hazardous material to come in. So shelter in place is very specific, and that's what we mean by that. And Jeff is the fire chief and the sheriff and the police chief. We are going to tell you what to do, and we're going to get to that a little bit farther down our sheet. But if you have to shelter in place, right, you're going to want to make sure that if you have to leave your apartment maybe for any reason, have water, have some granola bars, have some chocolate is my favorite. I'm not gonna lie, right? If we're stressed, can't go wrong with chocolate. So, cell phone chargers. Do you all have cell phones? Okay. Make sure you have that charger. Flashlights if the power were to go out. But I will tell you, and Jeff will reinforce this. A, this is a very safe building.
Yeah.
And so the structure of it, you're very safe here. And B, the city now has put a lot of the lines, they're now underground. And so that in and of itself greatly reduces the chances that you would ever be without power because those lines are underground. Now, don't get me wrong, if we had a catastrophic incident, it's always possible. But for what we might consider a routine storm, we're all kind of been here a while on this earth, we know that the power can go out. But with those lines underground, you are a lot less likely to experience them than someone who's living in a more rural setting. Come on in, grab a red bag if you want, a place to sit. So again, we can talk a little bit more about what we're gonna put in that preparedness kit as we kind of go around, but communication plan. How many of you would consider this to be a good idea? To have a preparedness pal?
No, you can sit here.
Yeah. What I call preparedness pal means that you, whoever it is, the person you're sitting next to right now, that whether you stay or go, that one person is gonna know where you are, okay? You're gonna write their phone number down and not just have it in your cell phone, okay? And you're gonna maybe have an ability, Littell, to have a key to their apartment. I'm not sure what the rules are here, but that person's gonna have some idea of your family or your best friends, so that we always have two people who know where you are and that you're okay. So I think that's very comforting. And it's also a good idea if you had to, say we had to evacuate for a fire, right? Now, when we had the downtown fire, Jeff graciously opened up the fire station. We didn't even have to think twice about where we would take everybody. We all went down there. It's just a matter of many times, whether it's a train derailment or something, really most often it's gonna be a few hours, maybe a day. Even the train derailment that happened recently in Raymond, they went to a school, then they wanted to have school, so they moved to a church. So they managed, and they were actually able to bring their pets into the shelters. But if you have a friend or a family member where you can just go hang out in their living room for those few hours, let's be honest, it's gonna be more comfortable, right? You're gonna be able to get coffee right away. I made coffee the day of the fire while Jeff was down there doing such a great job of saving our downtown. I managed to get coffee to everybody, and then food started coming in. But again, it took a little while, and so folks, understandably, were a little chilly, but we used Rainbow Rider buses, and we were able to get people all to safety. We didn't have any major injuries. So that's our job, is to help you get to where you need to go. But we need you to also be able to help yourself, okay? So having that communication plan, writing those phone numbers down. I can show you in my purse, wherever over there. I just have a piece of lined paper with my brother's and other people's numbers physically written down in case my cell phone loses power. Because we all know people in our phones by their names, right? We just push their names. So please, write some down and have that thought process of how people are gonna know you're okay. Reliable information. This is so key, and we're gonna have a drawing for two lesser expensive battery-powered AM/FM radios. And then Fran is gonna show us her more advanced, the NOAA weather radio. That is a crank, and it has a light. They do, I know, sell them locally, Fleet Farm, I think Menards. I'm not particular to those two stores. I think you got yours online. But if you have the ability to get a fancier one and you want to, they're great. They're really going to help give you the information you need. But at the end of the day, a couple of things for reliable information are going to come from our local media, because the sheriff and other leaders are gonna say, stay, go, we've got power lines down, don't leave your house on these particular streets, okay? Because even if the storm is past here, you might not understand that there's power lines down, and those obviously are something you don't want to encounter. You don't want to drive anywhere near them. So know how to access those local radio stations. We've got the Hubbard stations, we've got KXRA in Osakis area, we've got other options, but know how to find them on the dial, all right? So many of us are streaming, and we've got all of our Netflix and our various platforms, right? Local is how you're gonna get that information. You're also gonna get that information, and I've got sign-up sheets there. The county uses a system called Code Red. Does everybody know? Okay, so I'm gonna have these sheets here, and And
Really?
Tell me.
We're telling you now.
Well, you're late.
so,
Well, you shouldn't.
so Code
That's a
Red,
good deal.
yes, so myself as emergency manager and our 911 dispatchers, can physically push the buttons to send Code Reds for local messaging, okay? You have to sign up for Code Red. And this can come on your landline. How many of you have landline? Those are valuable. They can come as cell phone messages and texts and emails, okay? And I'm gonna leave some sheets here, and if you wanna just return those to Lintel, and then I can come collect them to make sure we have you in our system. It's super simple, your name, your address, and your landline, and your cell phone.
Is there a cost to it?
There's no cost, absolutely not.
Great question.
Yes,
question.
great question.
Thank you.
So those are gonna
And
come
what can I say?
on your cell phone. And you can sign up, and I highly recommend that you sign up for the severe thunderstorm and tornado watches as well as warnings. So the difference is that watch, it's kind of like cooking, right? You're gonna get your ingredients together during the watch phase so you're ready to cook. And so the watch is making sure you know where your preparedness bag is, you make sure your cell phone is charged, you've got some water and some granola bars and those kinds of things to stay in place. And then when the warning comes is when you want to make sure you're in your safe spot. And we talked about that. Here would be their apartments,
Yeah, in your apartments, in your bathrooms.
in the apartments, in the bathrooms. So no windows, stay away from windows. And go in there again. This building is built sturdy, right?
Mhm.
So as scary as it might seem, that's your best spot. And so those Code Reds are coming on, again, those phones and your email. Now, there's another system, and it doesn't matter that it's called wireless emergency alerts, but that's what it's called. Those are going to come to every cell phone in the danger area, okay? So the problem with Code Red is if you are on vacation in Wisconsin and there's a storm in Douglas County, you're still gonna get that notification, even if you're not in Douglas County at the time. The wireless emergency alerts go to every phone physically here. So you know how we get all those visitors, right? The out-of-towners that come to Douglas County every summer and all year, really. They're gonna get those warnings when they're physically in Douglas County, where the danger is. So it's really good. We have two systems to help warn you. The National Weather Service is going to use those wireless emergency alerts just on cell phones for tornado warnings and for severe thunderstorms, but only when it has 80-mile-an-hour winds or greater or baseball-sized hail, okay? And, of course, we will sound the outdoor warning sirens. Now, we've decided in the county that if we have tornado warnings, we are sounding those sirens countywide. In the past, we tried to sound them a little more specific. If the tornado had been spotted near Kensington, we might not sound them in Osakis. We have 2 dispatchers that are on a normal day, sometimes 3 and a supervisor. The path of those tornadoes and the straight line winds that came with them on 2 times in May, both of them traveled, again, the tornado path was smaller, the first one, but the straight line winds path was very long. They traveled across the county. Our dispatchers would have to sit there and they're answering the phones and they're, to try to figure out which siren do I set off next. We have 38 of them. We're just setting them off countywide. These tornadoes are monsters these days, and even if it's an EF0, I don't care. We're going to set them off initially countywide. You'll see on your television a tornado warning for a county, so that's what we're gonna do. Now, in a severe thunderstorm with those 80-mile-an-hour winds, we might use the siren. We would keep those probably to a little more specific area if possible. Let's hope we don't have any of that. But just know that there's good, hard-working people who are working 24/7 in our dispatch. Jeff and I are virtually on call all the time. to be there for you, and so we're gonna do our best in coordination with the National Weather Service to get you that information. But, and you can hear the sirens here, right? I mean, even if you have your,
Oh, yeah. we
if
know.
you had your TVs blaring,
Every
great.
Wednesday, first
That's-
Wednesdays and Monday.
And honestly, they're not geared for people to hear inside, they're
No.
for people to hear outside to find shelter.
Mhm.
So they're not meant, so if you're hearing it, wow, that's,
You can go into your bed and still hear it.
Right.
that's all right, that's all right.
Yeah.
It's loud,
Well,
which is
and-
fine. I mean, I'm grateful for it.
Well,
Good.
good, it's, thank you, I agree, and, you know, again, during a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch, you know, maybe that's not the time to go out and go to the store if you don't really have to, right? You know, we had so many people in those two tornadoes, you know, they had their children in their cars, they waited a little bit too long at a sporting event before they headed home. I mean, little kids saw a semi blown off the freeway. They saw things that really they didn't need to see. If they just maybe would have made better decisions to just get home and be safe, even if you're waiting it out for a little while, right? It's just better. Why would we stress ourselves out, right?
Maybe the first one.
Yep. So, you know, in your transportation, I mean, gosh, what if for some reason you have a flat tire, right? You just don't want to be out and about. So, you know, and the more you can help, the one thing you can do to help as emergency manager is share this message. And we appreciate folks sharing it to make sure that all of our family and friends do the same. We just spoke to a group of seniors at the high school, and I said to them, they could help me by helping us understand that not everybody uses Facebook, right? You know, it's hard to communicate. And I asked the seniors, I said, if you wanted, they wanted a project. I said, if you wanted a project, can you please, you know, help me share this preparedness messaging on the platforms that you use and in ways that other kids in senior high school are going to actually see it and embrace it, right? And for you guys to help me understand how we might get more information out. You know, it's kind of hard to do direct mailings to all of our families in Douglas County. We wish we could, but all ideas are always welcome and appreciated. So that reliable information, and you know, I have transportation on here. If you don't have a vehicle of your own, do you have someone else, or you're familiar with Rainbow Rider? You know, especially as we get a little older, you know, my husband's mom was here, my mother-in-law, for a number of years, and she gave up her car when she moved to Alec, but she knew that either we'd be there, she lived in a nice safe facility as well, but when we had to evacuate Grand Arbor, there she was, with Jeff Caro, helping her to get on the bus, and so we will do whatever it takes if we have to move a large group of people from point A to point B, right? We were very successful with hundreds of people in a small amount of time. So, so those are kind of the basics. Fran, if you want to show your radio.
Yeah,
This
all
is
right.
a really nice model.
Yeah, this is just a simplistic NOAA, which is a radio that will,
You don't have that in your phone?
no, that's okay. This will, it has a solar panel on top where you can put this in your window and it'll charge up with the solar. It also has batteries, and it has a crank in the back where you can crank it for power. You can, it also has a USB so you can charge up your cell phone. It has, of course, the regular radio, the AM and FM, and then it has the NOAA where it alerts you to what the weather is, tornado coming and all that kind of stuff. And it has also an emergency button. I'm not going to press that, it's really loud.
Yeah.
In case you're out and about somewhere and you need help right away, you can sound that. It's got the flashlight here. And then when you bring up it's got an antenna. It's got actually a little compass on here. on the strap. And this will lift up to be a lamp. So you could turn that on too. This is, I got this on Amazon for like, it was around 15, 20 bucks. So all that you could get in this little thing, and it's easy to carry, put in your go bag, whatever. And then I do want to quickly talk real quick about your go bag. It's going to be different for everybody else in what you need. And that is, you want to make sure you have a change of clothes, some socks, underwear, toothbrush, toothpaste, the granola bars, things like that that you might want to, for overnight or maybe, 2 or 3 days.
Your medicine.
And medicines,
Yes, and
that stuff.
life-saving,
Yeah.
Absolutely, friend, that's great.
So it's going to be different for everybody, but you know what you need for 2 or 3 days. And if you have a pet, maybe throw some food in there too, in a bowl or whatever. So,
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Yep.
Yes.
What about pets?
So, right, it's, that is an issue that we do deal with, right, I mean, if we have to evacuate, right, and this is what they found in Raymond, and Red Cross actually now is taking pets in some of the shelters, and so, but it's a question, if we had a lot of folks with a lot of big dogs at the fire station, that might not work out so well, right? And I know that the firefighters ended up going back in Raymond to get some of the pets. But I would recommend that if you have a carrier, obviously, and a smaller pet, take it, and with some food and some water. And I know that we will do our best to accommodate that. We would also, you hate to have it end up at the shelter. But large animals, if we had to move a large swath of animals, we have the fairgrounds, and
Well,
so.
right now, the Bark Barn is building a new building for the Bark Barn. Now, we don't have a memo of understanding with them, but I just did some inspections there. They have 2 big, like twice as big as this room that they can put animals in, and they have a lot of different kennels for these larger. So I would think if we got to that point that we're looking long-term or something, we would start discussing with them like, hey, can we get some of these animals over here? So I don't know all the answers, but I do know it was in the back of my mind when I walked through that. I'm like, oh my word, this is a big building for sheltering pets. I have 2 dogs in my house. In fact, Junie sleeps with me every night, and I have 3 cats. So I am a pet lover as well, so.
And, right, and we have, in our emergency operations plan, a list of all the contacts of the veterinarians and adding to it all the time. I mean, obviously it makes a difference. Is it 30 below, or is it a nice 70-degree day where we might be able to, some of the veterinarian places that have those outdoor places. It's nice now that a lot of people with pets want to travel, because we do have those accommodations that we didn't have years ago. And this community will come together, I guarantee it. And accommodate and make it work, right, Jeff?
Yes.
I mean, if we have 20 pets that we're not sure of where we're gonna house them temporarily, I am confident that a boarding facility, 1 or 2 of them, our Animal Humane Society will no question accommodate. Again, if we had to move a lot of horses and we had to move a lot of other pet type large animals, it'd be a challenge, but we do have the fairgrounds, and we do have a lot of accommodating folks with large, right behind my house, a woman has 2 horses and a very big pasture area that could accommodate more, so, but very good question. And on those, the one thing in a stay kit as well that we haven't talked about is a whistle, because Fran demonstrated on her radio how it makes noise. My voice already, just after 20 minutes, gets a little hoarse. If for some reason you were inside here and we had a big, massive, what Ferreta in Hudson Township was very similar, Jeff was down there, your voice is gonna give out if you wanna let responders know you're inside. So have a whistle. It's a very inexpensive thing, and you can use that to let them know that you're in there, okay? Another thing we learned, and I'm gonna just take 2 more minutes before I turn it over to Jeff. When we evacuated Grand Arbor because of a potential gas leak, There's in the residential, the senior housing area, it wasn't in the assisted living or the memory care. So these were folks that were able to, move fairly quickly. But we weren't always sure between the facility and the firefighters and everybody showing up what had been searched, and so we ended up making this special tape, and I'm gonna give one to Littell. So, because we don't wanna, you see those big tornadoes, they're putting markings on.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't wanna do that to your lovely doors, right? So this tape, all the fire departments have it in their rigs, and it can just be used, there's, spaced out check marks, and once they have you out safely, they're gonna put that piece of tape over, and then they're gonna go. So we don't have to ever question, has that unit been checked and cleared? Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah, so, we try to see what is needed and make what we can on a reasonable budget, so we can give this to our larger housing areas. So again, my mother-in-law, she thought it was exciting. And we moved them all over to the high school. And again, that is why you have a go bag, because they were only there for a few hours, but it took us a while to get them some food, and it wasn't like there wasn't water fountains there, so no one went terribly thirsty, but they had their own bag and a small book, right, or a deck of cards, or a little game of Sparkle or something that's small, just to pass the time. Because when we're stressed, again, chocolate and a little distraction goes a long way to passing the time. Does that make sense? Absolutely. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah, I realized that I didn't have my twin brother's number memorized.
There you
So
go.
writing down the ICE people in case of emergency people.
Yes.
Um,
Please do that. I can't reinforce that enough, because same thing, I know, I get, someone's like, what's your brother Brad's number? I don't know. Let me look it up, right? If my phone isn't working, or heaven forbid I have forgotten it, you're in trouble. So yes, write it down. I just keep it in my purse. When it gets too frayed, I'll do it again, I guess, so. Perfect, well, Jeff's gonna talk, and then we can have
Oh,
questions. Yeah.
one question. What do you suggest for people that, let's say there was a situation like a tornado, storm, whatever, how many bottles of water and food should people have on hand in their apartment?
Well, we do say 3 gallons of water, right, for every person. And we want you to be prepared for 3 days. And we certainly would hate for it to be 3 days until we could get to you. But you're gonna need more water than you think you're going to need, right? And back in the day, you could fill a bathtub. I mean, you ever watch those old World War II movies? And I mean, all the time their bathtubs were full of water, right? And they did that on purpose. And so, it's not just to drink. Think about how much water you use every day, whether it's brushing your teeth or just washing up, especially if it's hot and for some reason the power is out. Let's be honest, we're all gonna need more water than we think. So yes, please buy, those gallon jugs, or if you can lift a bigger one, be sure you can lift it. That's the other thing, as we get older, if you buy too big of a container. But yes, great point. And the first thing you always see on the news when we have a tornado, or even, heaven forbid, in Maui, where the fire came roaring through, everybody always says, where are the officials to help us? It's all volunteers. I have news for you. That's how it works. Is your neighbors and the people who are able to get to you, the volunteers with trays of food. Good grief, in the fire, we had more food from people. It was wonderful, right? I mean, the structure is there, but if it's countywide, the tornadoes that we had, someone might not be at your door in 20 minutes.
I moved from California after being away for 48 years, and one thing I found out, moving back to LA, family oriented. I don't care where you go, they they do the sports, they do the parades, they do everything, and it's all family, and it's so lovely.
Isn't it
And
wonderful?
it's so wonderful
I know.
to depend on.
It really is, and I appreciate that so much. When the Ferreta area, Hudson Township, we had many volunteers, and the one thing that we learned, when we had the first tornado, there's a system on our emergency management page where you can actually go online and fill out that you've had damage. Now, this isn't to get you money magically to fix it. What we wanted was to know where the damage was so we could trace the path, and we produced maps every couple of hours. We had a lot of response. We messaged on local radio, we said, please go on, here's how you do it, so we can see where the damage, we had damage all over the county. You know, it was Alec and LeGrand Township, that first one, it was County 11, I mean, it was Spruce Hill Township, it was all over the place. We hardly had any response when we had that huge tornado, and 20-mile swath in Ferreta Hudson Township that again went to Nelson and beyond. And I thought, well, that's way more people were impacted. Why didn't we hear from more people? And unfortunately, it's because their homes were destroyed. They didn't have a computer to go on. So how did we message then to this large group of people? We, the firefighters, thought of this down in Ferreta. I give them all the credit in the world for this one. We went and bought milk board, erasable whiteboards, and pounded them to stakes, and then we put them strategically in various locations. And every day, somebody's job was to go and update and say, okay, today's Salvation Army, which brought food every day. And okay, there's gonna be sandwiches, Salvation Army at noon on Tuesday, right? We're gonna have a community meeting tonight at the Ferreta Hall or the Hudson, the same place, but we literally wrote on those boards for weeks because we knew that people couldn't rely on their computers or even their cell phones, and they got in the habit of having us update those signs. And you know what? It worked well.
And we do find a way.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. All right, Jim.
All right. Okay,